Okay, we'll try this again. Now, people have been asking me about the Ouija boards, and are they really dangerous, or do they, are they any use or anything like that? Well, yes, they do, and they work too well, and that's the problem. Now, the best analogy I could describe for, say, contacting the spirit world, quote unquote, whatever spirits you get, it's the same precautionary mindset you would have. Do you ever see, like, in movies where they've got like they're there's a dangerous virus that could destroy the world, or some kind of chemical that's deadly, and the guy puts his hands, or the woman puts their hands through a gloves that go into a glass case. Here comes the meat golems. Here we go again. No reason to be in this industrial yard on a Monday afternoon. They're swarming. Oh, anyway, my God. Anyway, uh, I wouldn't want this wouldn't even be a good dogging site for someone at this point, because, oh, this is unbelievable. Here they go. Wait, here they are. Unbelievable. Anyway, the you ever see in the films where they put the hands through these gloves and they go into a glass box, and in there they can pour test tubes, and the idea is that the box it stops contamination, it stops a dangerous substance or virus from getting out. You see in a lot of movie scenes that it's like an isolation chamber in a box, and the gloves allow them to work inside there without any danger to the operator or to the world. It's like some kind of film, spy movie or something. Now, that's exactly how you should approach dealing with the spiritual world. And that's why in ritual magic, like the summoning of demons in the Ouija, you create a magic circle. This is why you draw a circle around a sigil or a talisman or a seal. That becomes the demarcation line where the new reality, where the entity is contacted or connected to, is inside that circle. This is why the genie is in the bottle. This is why the Dybbuk is in a box. It's a containment vessel to stop the. You're pinning. It's almost like putting a leash on an entity, and when the Ouija board is wide open. Now, when someone takes a Ouija board out and opens it, the analogy I would make for that is someone who's bleeding in the ocean and every shark for 10 miles smelling and hearing it. Yes, a woman who's menstruating going through a forest full of bears. And every bear around will smell the blood. And that's what it's like. Now, it's not the Ouija board in its organic, innate sense that has made it happen that way. It's because the Ouija board has taken on an element of mystique. It's been in so many films that teenagers play with it, and a lot of emotional intensity has been put into it, that even someone who has no could not experience contacting an entity in any other way. As soon as they open that board up, it's like a beacon lights up in the demon world, and they swarm towards it. In fact, they'll be fighting with each other to try and get into your head. And it's also, all those other processes I mentioned required an element of exclusivity or a skill to deal with them, whether it's proper protection using a triangle and a circle in a summoning of, say, Karanzan, an agency and a protective space. Also, the the genie is in a bottle, the Dybbuk is in a box, this kind of thing, and that the Ouija board is wide open, so it opens up, and the demon world literally swarms upon it, and it's also because it's an absolute lazy form of uh, connection with the other side, that or with other dimensions and other entities, anyone can do it, and also that makes it people prime for possession. Now, the one thing you have to remember, as I've been saying for years over and over again, is that these things will tell you anything you want to hear. They will never tell you the truth. They will tell you anything you want to hear. So if it's you're trying to contact a departed loved one, it'll tell you that. If you're trying to contact, is there an angel in this house, or a demon, or an alien, or something, or anything, it'll tell you anything you want to hear, and it will lie, and it will lie, and it will lie. But it will also find it's when as a group of people become dependent upon the Ouija board, they become possessed. they literally cannot live without it. They will actually move into the same house and see that Ouija board as almost like the family's heart and home. They cannot put it down. It appeals. That's why it appeals to people with addictive personalities very much so. This is why if you're like a chain smoker or you're a heavy drinker or a drug user, I would stay away from that, especially. Now That's not to say the Ouija board doesn't have its use. Like I said, it works every time. It never not fails, because of its prominence within the other side, and and if you could probably use the Ouija board to attract an entity and then pin it down, that would be very useful. You could probably try that. Now, in the early days of the sort of like the proto version of the Ouija board was simply letters spread out written on card, always different. They wouldn't be cards that was printed. They'd be, you'd have all the letters of the alphabet spread out randomly in a circle on a table, and then that using the planchette would have been a glass, and then that's how they would have got messages from the other side. You were more likely to get more sincere messages. People who just recently died or something and they're in a state of bardo would often use that, and that would be but that would be, remember that the letters would always be different. They'd be written differently on pieces of paper. They'd be spread out differently, where the Ouija board is like a flag. It's like a flag at that point. And entities are attracted to the flag because they recognize this familiar symbol, and they swarm towards it. It's just like the moth to a flame, or the fly to a UV light. It's the same thing. And if you're smart, you can catch these things, but you'll never get any sincere messages. You'll always protect. You're dealing with the insects of the spirit world. These low-level parasitic feeders who will tell you anything you want to know, so they can get a rush of adrenaline off you. And if a bunch of teenage kids have a really bad experience with a Ouija board and they start screaming and running away from it, even better, they're harvesting that energy as well. If a religious or spiritual group grows around the Ouija board, they love that as well, because it's a regular fix for them. And they will do everything to pin them by giving them affirmations. And remember, they will actually get truthful things from the future, because remember, these entities can travel in space-time. They're not subject to the same limitations of the clock speed of the human brain that we are. And that's why the cunning folk of England would contact the likes of Oberon and other entities in order to find out information about the future. So yeah, the Ouija board absolutely 100% works, and that's what makes it extremely dangerous, because people who are not very spiritually developed can get caught up in it and eaten alive by it. It can also be used as a portal for possession. Weak-minded people can be taken over believing that there's some kind of like special god or something like that, and it's very crude. It's very crude, but at the same time too, if you're it's that this fact that the fact that it's actually very useful and it never fails, is very good for people who may want to actually trap something inside a Dybbuk box, a genie bottle, or a talisman or seal. So yeah, go for it if you think you're brave enough to stand up to it. If you don't, well, stay away from it. And it's also I find it quite boring. I find the Ouija board quite a boring device for that kind of thing. So yeah, leave some comments down below if you have any experience with this stuff. I'd love to hear it. Anything ranging from when you're a bunch of teenagers did something stupid to maybe something really, mind blowing. It's all valid. So yeah, Ouija boards are extremely dangerous for no other reason than they're extremely effective.